Good morning, everyone, and welcome along to the Blood Red Morning Bulletin, your place every weekday from 10 a.m, courtesy of the Liverpool Echo on the Blood Red channel for the latest Liverpool FC news. I'm your host for today, Patrick Smith, and I'm joined by Jamie Finlater of Liverpool.com. Jamie, been a while since you've been on one of these pods. How's things?
Not too bad, just waiting for this international break to end. It's felt like forever, really, since the last sort of against Villa, so looking forward to the weekend.
No, it's good you brought that up, everyone. So there will be a later international report rounding up all of the action from the past couple of days involving Liverpool's players. Fortunately, there's no injuries to report on that one, so make sure you're keeping across the Blood Red channel because that one will be out later. Full report of how all the players got on. But for now, we've got something a little bit different for you. So EA Sports, their new EAFC 24 game, have released some of the ratings, and Liverpool's ratings have been released. Now, these are always interesting talking points, aren't they, Jamie? I mean, there's plenty to talk about with these. Let's get straight into it, shall we? We've taken a look at most of the players, not all the players are in this, but we have to start, don't we, I think, with Mohamed Salah, who has received, I believe, a downgrade. Let's just get the slideshow on here so we've got the ratings. So Mohamed Salah, Jamie, 27 goals, 15 assists last season, and he's been downgraded. Discuss.
How can you downgrade him? It's I mean, he's still one of the top-rated players in the game, but after the year he's had, and in that team, the Liverpool team last season, where he was, bar Alisson, who I'm sure we'll come on to in a bit, but bar Alisson, he was picking a bunch, really, and God knows where Liverpool would have been without him. So I think he's been harshly done by just by the fact that Liverpool had a poor season and coming down on his rating after scoring, kind of off the top of my head how many goals it was, however many assists it was, but it was still by far one of the best around in the world. So yeah, seems a bit harsh, but we're getting used to this, aren't we?
I know. I mean, it is baffling. There seems to be a few downgrades across the board. I'll say, like, a few other players have seen their rating slip, but he's ranked as the 13th best player in the game, or joint 13th best player with an 89 rating. I mean, it really is baffling how you can downgrade him after such an amazing season he had. Basically single-handedly carried Liverpool at times in that season because they were dreadful. Let's not beat around the bush. And Salah was the one whose output didn't drop when most of the players did. So yeah, I don't know how they've come to that decision. We're here every year, aren't we, with EA Sports going, how on earth have they decided that one? But let's move on, shall we? So you touched on Alisson Becker. He's the next player we're going to move on to, I believe. Oh, we've got a bunch of them. Let's go straight to Alisson Becker. So, Jamie, once again, the similar question is discussed because Alisson Becker, arguably the best goalkeeper in the world. He's the third highest goalkeeper on the game behind Thibaut Courtois and Marc-Andre ter Stegen of Barcelona. How has he not been upgraded after his season last year?
God knows. I mean, he does seem to be disrespected quite a lot, especially recently, not even getting nominated for the Ashen Award at the Ballon d'Or, like not even in the top 10. There's some goalkeepers in there. You wonder how on earth they're in ahead of Alisson. I mean, goalkeepers on FIFA tend to get a bit disrespected anyway. They don't really get the ratings that maybe they should get. And Alisson, 89, I mean, for FIFA, that's probably about standard. But at the same time, you'd say, well, is ter Stegen really as good as Alisson? I mean, he's got the same rating as him. And for my money, there's absolutely no doubt. I mean, Alisson's the best goalkeeper in the world for me anyway. But I can at least sort of understand why Courtois is maybe just a little bit higher than him in terms of the success Real Madrid have had recently. That I can sort of buy that. Ter Stegen, I'm not buying. Alisson is by far the best goalkeeper in the world for me, and there needs to be that kind of recognition of it. Whether he should be, I mean, Courtois 90, ter Stegen's 89. For my money, Alisson should be at least sort of 91 or maybe even a little bit more. But I know FIFA don't like giving big ratings to goalkeepers, so we'll settle at 91.
No, I agree with you. I don't think there's much between Courtois and Alisson. Look, Thibaut Courtois once again had an amazing season. He, probably is the best goalkeeper in the world if you're going off performance and then also trophies won within a team, which is what they seem to base these things off. Because as you say, their nominations for the Ashen Award are just really, really strange. I mean, all the players that you turn your heads at, their teams had great seasons, whereas Liverpool were obviously terrible. So that must come into it. But then that's so counterproductive, I think, when you're assessing a goalkeeper. Because I've looked at the gone on FBref and looked at Alisson's, you can compare the XG against performance, basically, and he's miles ahead of anyone else. The next clearest is strangely Bernd Leno. But I mean, you look at the nominations for the Ashen Award, you got Bryce Samba of Lyon, had a good season, but Dominik Livakovic, Fenerbahce in Croatia, Yassin Bonu of Morocco, Andre Onana. I mean, they are not better goalkeepers than Alisson and did not have a better season than him last year. It's really strange that we're sort of, I know 89 is a high rating for FIFA to give him, but he's almost underrated. It's so bizarre that he's been so underrated because he's clearly been the standout goalkeeper. It's not like he's gone under the radar and kept Liverpool in games quietly. Every game, you think back to last season, there were times where he single-handedly kept Liverpool in matches. You look at Newcastle this season as well. That could be a huge turning point for Liverpool's season. I mean, that save was ridiculous, wasn't it? No other goalkeeper in the world could pull that off, I'm sure. But anyway, let's move on then, shall we, to Virgil van Dijk. I believe he has been downgraded by 1, I think, Jimmy. Correct me on that one. But, you know, I think, is there a question that Van Dijk is perhaps lucky to keep such a high rating? Because performance levels perhaps dropped off last season, didn't they?
Arguably, I'd say so. I think, especially after last season, I mean, it certainly wasn't his finest season. So, in a way, I think just going down by the looks of it, 1 rating, that's seems maybe just about fair. I think, especially after last season, I don't think many Liverpool players would have come out of it thinking, oh yeah, we're going to get a big upgrade here or whatever. So, Van Dijk is still at 89. I'd say that's probably just about fair. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'd still consider him on his day one of the best defenders around. But I think certainly after the year he's had, I think there is sort of a definite argument for him to be downgraded.
That's the point I was making. Obviously, I'm going to be a bit biased, but I think he, on his day, is the best centre back in the world. There's no doubt about that. The way he can play is just, he is the best on his day. But when you see other players like Mohamed Salah be downgraded and loads of other players get these random downgrades, it's surprising not to see Van Dijk get one as well. I mean, these ratings do make no sense. I'm sure most of our viewers will be aware. I mean, obviously, I'd be happy for Van Dijk to keep that rating. Maybe the pace, I think, could slightly have dropped. He doesn't look as quick as he once was. But yeah, happy for Van Dijk to keep that rating. Let's move on, shall we, to, I believe we have got, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson have both received a -1 as well. I think a few players are receiving this -1. Do you think that's fair, to be honest, after last season, both of these receiving a downgrade?
I think it might sound a bit harsh, but I think there should be a kind of discrepancy between Trent and Robertson. I think, especially after the end of last season, it's clear that Trent, took on a kind of another level and in that kind of new position that he was sort of Liverpool's talisman during that period, the unbeaten run towards the end of the season. I mean, this season we kind of haven't seen the best of him, but he has had, come off a couple of times injured. So we haven't quite seen the best of him so far this season, but hopefully he will pick up that form again soon. For me, there should be a bit of a discrepancy between the two. Not to disrespect Andy Robertson, who I love anyway, but I think at this moment in time, Trent should be on a higher kind of level, purely just for his passing and his, his vision and all that sort of thing. So for me, Trent, I suppose both of them were likely to get a downgrade after last season, but for me, Trent, I think, should still be higher than Robertson in any case. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's how I feel about it.
No, I agree with you. I think, to be fair to Robertson, who's probably more consistent last year, and, his performance levels didn't drop as much as some of his teammates. I mean, Trent's performance levels were all over the shop last season, to be fair. And I think the downgrade's based off comparing that to the quadruple season. You've got to remember, these Liverpool players being downgraded had just been upgraded from nearly winning a quadruple. So I think there's going to be a bit of, a drop there. You look at Trent, 90 passing. I think definitely after this season, Trent will be getting upgraded if his performance levels can stay the same. He's been unbelievable the start of this season. His passing as well, as you say. I think it was the Aston Villa game. I think he had 100% completion pass in the first half and then finished the game with 90 something. I mean, he's playing unbelievable. I'm sure he will get that discrepancy between the ratings, as you say, between him and Robertson. Not to slight Robertson, who's been an amazing performer as well. Let's move on then, shall we? We've got a few more ratings to go through. So we've got a few on this one. If you want to talk us through these, Jimmers. I think most of them have stayed the same. I think there's a little downgrade for Thiago and maybe an upgrade for McAllister.
Yeah, looking at that, I mean, it's interesting to see, Gakpo as a left winger. It's debatable what position he is now because he just seems to be all over the pitch. But looking at them, Luis Diaz, maybe I'd certainly make an argument. I know he spent most of last season injured, so obviously there's going to be a level of, I don't know what rating he was last season, but 84 to me seems a bit low for him. I'd say. I think, especially if you've got Jota 85. I love Jota, but for me, I think
Luis Diaz is better than Jota. Yeah,
yeah. For me, Luis Diaz is better than Jota, so I'd have him higher up. Thiago 84. I'd perhaps say that's maybe it's hard to say with Thiago, just because we don't get to see a kind of consistent run out of him with his injuries, so it's always difficult to kind of pinpoint. I mean, I think he is a fantastic player, but maybe his injuries have kind of hampered him a bit. Gakpo, perhaps I haven't seen quite enough of him to really gauge just how good he is at this moment. I love him. I think he's a great player. And this season, I think he's maybe been a bit hamstrung by the fact that Liverpool didn't have, the holding midfielder at the start of the season, and he kind of had to be, shoehorned into that number 8 role. So we haven't seen the best out of him this season, but I can't wait for him to actually get back into that front 3 and see the best of him. McAllister, I mean, I think that's an upgrade from what he was at Brighton. Obviously, he's going to be a big player for Liverpool this season. I think, considering where he was with Brighton, and I mean, considering the year he had, winning the World Cup of Argentina as well, certainly deserves an upgrade. Whether that's high enough, I'm not sure, but I guess he might get higher if he has a good season with Liverpool. So we'll see whether that's fair or not. Núñez, I mean, the first season was a bit mixed. Maybe there is I'm not sure about 82, whether, I mean, from what we've seen him so far this season, I'd say maybe a little, one step higher than that or something, but 82, considering the season he had last season, maybe fair enough. Don't know how you feel about all of them.
I mean, I think Núñez has held his rating, which is probably fair based off last season. He's showing signs that he's improved this year, and no doubt, hopefully he does. McAllister as well, I think, has got a little deserved upgrade. I mean, the thing that you said with Cody Gakpo, it's great to see him playing in his orthodox attacking role for the Netherlands, because he's played 2 games, scored 2 goals. I mean, I know one of them was a penalty, but there's a great attacker in there and a definite goal scorer. He had something like 20 goal contributions for PSV by the time Liverpool signed him in December. I mean, outrageous numbers heading into his World Cup. Few goals for Netherlands in the World Cup. Shame Jurgen Klopp's been playing him in centre midfield. Hopefully, for Cody's sake, he can start playing in that forward line. Thiago is the other. I mean, I think Jota and Diaz are probably fair ratings. Given Diaz was injured for the whole season, you can't really upgrade or downgrade him, I think. But with Thiago, I think his inconsistency and availability is shown by his card stats. I mean, 86 passing, 89 dribbling is one of the best in the game, you'd presume. But then, of course, that 67 physicality, 61 pace, I think says it all. Amazing ball player, but I'm not sure, he's physically good enough to be one of the best in the game. Let's move on anyway, shall we? Because we're slightly running out of time here. But we've got a few more players to go to. I think Dominic Szoboszlai there received a nice upgrade, but 34 defending is very, very bizarre. Talk us through the rest of these, Jerry, because there are some strange stats they've given some of the players here, aren't there?
Szoboszlai, I mean, from what we've seen so far, he is better than 82, and that defence rating is shocking. I mean,
you could swap a 3 for an 8, couldn't you?
Yes, definitely. It's from what we've seen of him, he is a much better player than that. So that should be getting an upgrade, hopefully soon. We'll see. Just quickly go through them. Konate, again, maybe injuries have just taken a bit of a toll on his rating. I think he is better than 81, but we perhaps haven't quite seen enough of him. Matip, again, he's been out injured quite a lot. We've obviously not seen too much of him recently, obviously with Van Dijk and Konate being the kind of first choice pairing. So I think 80 is maybe fair. Endo, we haven't really seen enough of him to say too much. Gravenberch, we'll have to wait and see. 79 at this moment in time, maybe fair. Gomez, 79. I mean, I'd say perhaps on the same level as Matip, but 79 is probably fair as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I think Gomez and Matip are probably about level and deserve to be around the 80 mark. I think Konate is definitely better than 81. I mean, considerably better than Joel Matip, I'd say. It's just the availability is the problem. I think EA like to downgrade players or not rate players who do spend a lot of time injured, which is a shame for him. But yeah, Dominic Szoboszlai, I mean, 34 defending is so bizarre to me. I mean, for Leipzig, he did play in that, out and out number 10 role or sometimes on the left, so they probably didn't see him defend that much. But the way Leipzig play, very defensive units. I'm just baffled by having 34 defending and 64 physicality. The bloke's absolutely massive. He's built like a brick, house. But anyway, that wraps up the ratings there. There's a few more to go through. I think Stefan Bajcetic we've got here has been upgraded to a 72. Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, 77. But yeah, as per usual, a lot of nonsense in those ratings. I hope you enjoyed that, though, everyone. Something a little bit different for you today. Obviously, a bit of a slow news day on that front. Make sure, though, you subscribe to us here on the Blood Red channel. We'll bring you an international roundup, bringing you all of the reports of how all the Liverpool players got on for their national teams over the past couple of days, including all of those involved in last night's South American World Cup qualifiers. And of course, everyone, make sure you check out all the written content over at Liverpool.com from our brilliant writers like Jamie and, of course, the Liverpool Echo site. But yeah, for now, thank you for joining us on the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. We'll catch you again tomorrow live at 10 a.m. right here on the Blood Red channel.